The rain has been speaking to the lighthouse windows for a long time now. Not loudly, just a steady, patient sound against the glass, soft enough that you could almost mistake it for silence if you were not listening. Inside, a single lamp keeps a small circle of warm light on a wooden table. Beyond that circle, the stone walls hold their gentle dark. The day world has already gone home. The path to the shore is empty of hurry, and the only visitors left are the ones who came here to rest. You do not have to do anything here. You do not have to remember the day. If your eyes want to close, they may. I will speak slowly. The rain will continue, and nothing urgent will be asked of you tonight. This is a quiet place for quiet stories. Soft lore, told the way someone might tell it if they were sitting across from you, with a cup gone cold, and no need to finish it. There will be no sudden turns, no demand that you stay alert. Only rain, stone, a warm lamp, and a voice that does not mind if you drift away in the middle of a sentence. So, settle if you can. Let your shoulders drop. Let the next breath be a little longer than the last. We are already inside. If you look around, or if you only imagine looking around, you will notice how much of a lighthouse is made for stillness. Thick walls that do not argue with the weather. A floor that has learned the weight of ordinary steps. A round room that gathers sound and then softens it, the way a hand cups water and does not spill it. The air smells faintly of oil and wood, and the clean salt that arrives even when the windows are closed. It is not a sharp smell. It is the kind that belongs to rooms that have been kept carefully for years. Somewhere below, or far off in the building's memory, a stair winds upward in a slow spiral. You do not need to climb it yet. Knowing it is there is enough. Outside, the rain draws thin silver lines down the glass. The night beyond is deep blue-black, soft at the edges, more like a blanket than a stage. Inside, the lamp on the table is the true sun of this small world. Its light is warm and limited, which is a kindness. Unlimited light asks too much of the eyes. A small circle is enough. There may be a wool coat on a peg by the door, left by someone who meant to return and then decided the rain was a better companion. There may be a closed logbook on the table, its cover worn smooth where a hand has rested. There may be a cup gone cold beside it, ordinary, unfinished, forgiven. Soft evidence that people have been gentle here. If your mind is still carrying the noise of the day, you can set it down on the table beside the lamp. You do not have to organize it. You do not have to solve it. This tower has held heavier weather than one ordinary evening, and it is still standing. Notice, too, how little the room asks of your face. No one is waiting for your reaction. No screen is brightening to pull you forward. The only flicker is the lamp, and even that is steady enough to trust. In a world that often rewards alertness, this is a small permission slip written in amber light. You may become less available now. The walls are cool if you imagine touching them. Not cold enough to startle. Cool the way stone is cool. Patient. Older than your lists. Willing to hold the night without complaint. The rain continues its long letter on the glass. You do not need to answer it. Listening is enough. Somewhere a pipe or a timber may tick once, and then think better of it. These are not interruptions. They are proof that the building is a living shelter, warming itself the way a body does in sleep, automatically, without drama. Listen again to the rain. It has not changed its mind. It will keep its steady conversation with the glass while we stay. And if, far beyond the walls, the soft presence of the sea breathes against the shore, let it be only company, weather, not work, sound, not a task. There is a story told about this place, not as a warning, and not as a claim that must be proven, only as something the night seems willing to hold. It is said that the light turns even when the keeper is gone, not in a frightening way, not as if the tower had learned to walk without its caretaker, simply as if the night still received its slow circle of gold, because someone, sometime, had cared enough to set the work in motion and keep it honest. People on the shore, watching through rain, would notice the beam arriving on schedule. A patient sweep, a soft return, again and again. And they would say quietly that the lighthouse was keeping itself. In truth, the keeping was more ordinary and more beautiful than magic. Oil measured, timing checked, a mechanism cleaned until it trusted its own habits, a schedule shared between hands, care that did not need an audience. On some nights, the story goes, the keeper was not in the lantern room at all, resting below after a long day, walking the path to the village with a goat pulled close, teaching another person how to read the small signs of weather without making weather interfere. And still the light turned. The dark water, if it could be said to notice such things, received the same calm promise it always received. Someone thought ahead. You do not need to believe the beam is enchanted. You only need to believe that faithfulness can outlast a single pair of eyes. Rain teaches that. Stone teaches that. A lamp that refuses to light the entire world teaches that. A light that keeps its slow clock teaches that too. In one telling, a traveller once climbed near enough to see the glow and felt a strange relief, not because they needed rescuing, but because the turning meant the night still had a rhythm. Predictable light is a kind of lullaby for the mind. It says, the next moment will resemble this one. You may soften. If this were a different kind of story, someone might invent a ghost in the gallery, a restless spirit polishing the glass. Here, We can call it a habit of kindness made mechanical and then human again. The machine turns because a person chose over and over to make the night a little easier for strangers they would never meet. You can pretend, if you like, that the light is turning above you now, slow as a thought you do not have to finish. You do not need to climb to see it. Knowing it could be there is already a kind of company, like knowing a blanket is at the foot of the bed, even when you are not cold. There is another turn to the story, quieter than the first. It says that the light did not turn to impress anyone. It turned because that was the work, and the work had been made gentle through repetition. Some keepers in these tellings spoke to the mechanism the way gardeners speak to soil, not because it answers in words, but because care sounds better when it is spoken softly. Her version of the tale mentions a notebook with simple lines: weather, fuel, a note about a hinge that sang and then was oiled into silence. No drama in the pages, only the poetry of ordinary duty. On the nights when the keeper slept below, the notebook still held the plan. The plan was enough to keep the circle moving. Some people, hearing this, imagine the beam as a slow gold hand on a dark clock face. Others imagine only rain on the gallery glass and a warmth that arrives and leaves and arrives again, patient as breath. Whether those details are true does not matter much. Sleep does not require footnotes. It requires a path that does not jab the nerves. And if, somewhere above this round room, a light is still practicing its one gentle trick, then it is doing what we are doing now, returning again and again to a motion soft enough to rest beside. Let that story rest for a moment. You can keep it if it feels warm in your hands. You can set it down if your mind has already begun to soften around the edges. Either way, return with me to the room as it is. The lamp is still making its small gold island on the table. The rain is still writing the same long letter on the glass. The walls have not moved. They do not need to. Movement is not the only proof that something is alive. Patience is another. If your eyes have closed, keep them closed. If they are half open, that is fine too. There is no test at the end of this hour. There is only the continuing rain and the next soft story waiting lower in the tower, near the door, where a smaller light used to keep a different kind of watch. You do not have to keep watch tonight. Something careful was set in motion before you arrived. That is enough. Near the entrance of the lighthouse, past the first step in from the weather, before the stair begins its long vault upward, there is a place where a small lamp used to burn after hours, or so the second story says. Some nights, if you stand there now in imagination, you can almost invent the warmth of it. A modest flame, a glass chimney faintly clouded, a circle of light no wider than a person's two open hands. The tale belongs to a keeper who understood that not every kindness needs to be the size of a coast. The great light above had its work. The small lamp below had another. It was left for anyone who arrived late and wet, a walker on the path, a boat hand who needed a moment of dry brightness had simply walked farther than their courage had budgeted for. The keeper could not open the whole sea for every late arrival. Rules are also a kind of care. They keep the tower dry and the silence intact. But the keeper could leave one small lamp by the door, sheltered from the rain, visible through the glass, if there was glass, or simply waiting on a niche in the stone. It was not a beacon for the whole horizon. It was a private kindness for anyone close enough to need it. A sign that said, "You need not face the night by yourself." Even if the lantern room is busy with its slow clock, even if the chairs upstairs are empty, there is still a little light left on purpose. People who saw it did not always approach. Sometimes seeing was enough. They would stand under the overhang, shake rain from their sleeves, and feel their breath lengthen because someone, somewhere in the building, had imagined them before they arrived. That is a quiet kind of magic, not the kind that rearranges storms, the kind that rearranges fear into something smaller. In one version of the tale, the spare lamp was oil. In another, a candle renewed each evening, with a patience that looked like ritual and was only routine. What matters is not the exact fuel. What matters is the decision repeated until it became part of the building's weather. Leave a light, not for applause, not for legend, for the possibility of one tired person at the door. Of course, stories grow soft edges when told for years. Some say a note was left once on a night of especially patient rain. A few words about the nearest dry place to wait, written in a hand that did not try to be elegant. Some say later keepers continued the habit without knowing the first reason, the way people inherit a recipe and keep making it because the house smells right when they do. If you want a moral, it can be simple. You do not need to illuminate an entire coastline to help someone. A circle the size of 2 hands can be enough. A sentence spoken slowly can be enough. A rain sound that does not escalate can be enough. And if no traveller comes, the light still does its work for the person who lit it. Kindness, even unobserved, steadies the room. So let the entrance lamp glow in your mind for a moment. Small, faithful, unhurried. Then walk with me, if you like, away from the door and back toward the deeper quiet of the round room, where the table lamp continues its own soft duty. The 2 lights do not compete. One greets, one keeps company. Between them, a person can cross from the weather into rest. Above, if the turning light is still drawing its slow gold circle on the wet air, it does not mind the smaller lamp below. Care has room for more than one scale. A beam for the long night, a niche for the near quiet, a voice for the mind that is ready to set the day down. You can imagine the door closed gently, not locked against the world in anger, only closed the way a book is closed when the chapter is enough for tonight. The rain remains outside, still speaking. You remain inside, still allowed. If a thought arrives about unfinished lists, let it hang its coat on the peg beside the wool and wait. The peg is patient. The list can stay unfinished. The spare lamp in the story never asked anyone to earn the light first. If you are still with me, even half with me, we can take a slow climb of the stair. There is no destination that must be reached with effort. The climb itself can be a resting place if we do it in imagination only, one quiet turn at a time. Underfoot, the stone is smooth where generations have travelled the same spiral. Your steps, if you invent them, can be slower than usual. There is no one behind you asking you to hurry. The rail, if there is a rail, is cool and steady under a hand that does not need to grip hard. Halfway up, the rain becomes a closer companion through a higher window, still patient, still writing its silver lines. That is a lovely balance. Weather outside, shelter around you, voice nearby. Many of the best nights in a life are made of exactly that triangle. You might pause at a landing where a small window shows only dark and water-beaded glass. You do not need to see a horizon. Knowing the night is large is enough. Knowing you are not required to manage it is better. The lighthouse was built to hold a simple job and do it without drama. You can borrow that posture now. Hold one simple job. Breathe. Near the gallery, the air may feel a degree cooler, and the gold of the greater light, if you imagine it, arrives as a soft wash rather than a glare. Rain on gallery glass. A slow turn. A return. A slow turn. A return. You can let your breath match that patience without trying. In. Out. Arrive. Leave. Arrive again. If a title for the night surfaces in your mind, work, worry, a name, let it float by like a pale shape on dark water. You are not on duty. You are accompanying the room. When you are ready, turn back downward in the mind. Returning is part of the comfort. In sleep stories, we do not exile you in endless corridors. We bring you home to the same chair, the same circle of gold, the same patient weather. On the way back, you may pass the niche of the spare lamp, empty or lit, either way correct. You may pass the peg with the wool coat. You may pass the closed logbook that does not need another line tonight. Sit again, if you like. The chair remembers how to hold a person who has set down their day. Let your hands rest open or closed. Both are correct. Let your jaw unclench by a single degree. That degree is enough to begin. The stories can settle now, the way rain settles into its rhythm when no one is measuring it, not as neglect, but as peace. The light that turns through care, the spare lamp left for late arrivals. You can keep them as you keep a smooth stone from a quiet shore, not because you must explain them, but because they feel steady in the pocket of the mind. Around you, the lighthouse continues its night work of simply existing. Walls hold, windows receive the rain. The lamp spends its light carefully. None of these things demand applause. They are reliable in the way sleep wants the world to be reliable. No sudden rearrangements, no tests, no raised voices. If your thoughts still wander, you do not have to catch them. Let them take the spiral stair without you. They will tire eventually and find a corner. You can stay here, in the warm circle, breathing at the pace of rain. There is nothing you failed to finish by resting. There is nothing you must earn before the next breath. The day can remain outside with its wet path and unfinished lists. This room was made for the opposite of urgency. You do not have to keep watch. The turning light, if it turns, turns without needing your eyes. The spare lamp, if it glows, in the story only, glows without needing your thanks. Your only task, if you want one, is to let the shoulders drop another fraction and allow the next breath to be uncounted. I will speak less now. The rain will take the larger share of the sound. If words continue in your head after mine thin out, let them be soft ones. Window, stone, lamp, rain, home. You are allowed to sleep. You are allowed to leave the stories half remembered. You are allowed to wake later with only the feeling of rain remaining, and perhaps a slow gold circle that means nothing more urgent than the night was kept, and so were you. Rest well. The lighthouse will keep its quiet watch. The lamp will not mind if you do not see it. And outside, without needing an audience, the rain will go on